Wow, water skiing and rejuvenating old electric. My goodness me, that's incredible.
Yeah, I try not to combine the two. It's a bit dangerous.
Could be interesting. Oh wow.
Welcome to The Full Stop, a podcast for the childless community, presented by Sarah Lawrence, Michael Hughes and me, Berenice Smith. Our podcast delves into the many stories and dynamics that make up the childless not by choice identity. With the help of our guests, we aim to help you craft your own narrative and what it means to be part of our community. We also aim to inform those who are child-free or parents so that they can begin to understand and support those around them who may be facing a life without children. This episode is about beginnings. January can feel like a challenging month. The build-up to the holidays and the festive season is behind us, and we may feel relief or sadness. Our inbox is full of goal setting and new starts, and it could be overwhelming. We always take care with our January episode so we don't add to these feelings, but we really hope you enjoy this episode. Please extend a warm welcome to Caroline from the Kitch Hen, Michael from Sparky's Lighthouses, and Vicky from Clem's Garden. They're business owners who just happen to be part of our community too. They took time out to share their stories and tell us why they do the work that they do, and shared some inspiring advice that you may find useful, whatever your employment status is. Oh, and by the way, I am missing from this episode. COVID and I finally caught up with each other and I wasn't well enough to record, so like you, I'm listening along with you. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did.
This episode, we're going to be talking about new beginnings. So it's kind of, you guys have all got very different, very varied backgrounds for people in our community. So we were kind of interested in how you got into what it is you're doing and sharing your stories, because obviously as a community we have this thing where we have got to have a plan B, and sometimes it can feel like this, you've got to do this huge life-changing thing, you've got to give everything to the outside community to make yourself, I don't know, not feel better, but feel as though you're contributing in some huge way. And so we were interested in having like a few people on that have got a very varied backgrounds, but also are doing something different with their lives, if that makes sense. So I was wondering if we could start by perhaps introducing you all, because I think you may all be sort of new voices, which is exciting. And if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do, what your side hustle is, whatever it is that you're doing now, would that be okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Is there anyone that particularly would like to go first?
Happy to, if it breaks the ice.
Perfect.
Go for it, Mike.
Yeah, well, why not? Yeah. Mine, Mike Sparks, 64 and a quarter now. I'm sort of semi-retired, just a brief potted history of what I've done with my life. 30 years in the City of London as a stockbroker and fund manager. And in fact, the last year that I did there was working for a small asset management company, which was wholly owned by QBE, which I think you guys on the other side of the world might know about. Mm-hmm. The Australian company. Anyway, I'll move on. So that career came to an end after about 30 years, and then I ran a charity local to here where I live, just northwest of London, for about 4 or 5 years. Always had been interested in antiques throughout my life, and that has grown as I've got older, and then actually got involved working selling online bidding systems for a company that the Antiques Trade Gazette, and then through that kind of fell into doing what I do now. I'm sort of semi-retired, as I say, but what work I do is antique restoration, and I specialize in lighting. So I've got the right surname. And when I give people my business card, they just don't believe me, and that is my real name.
What's your surname?
Sparks.
Ah,
People do not believe it.
it's meant to be.
And it literally, I fell into doing this. It was via an antique dealer who I was shadowing, really, because he was very good and I wanted to learn a bit, and I just used to go to antique fairs with him and just listen to what he would say about stuff. And then one day he said to me, I bought all these light lamps in Europe, do you think you could make them work? I said, well, I'll have a go. And without boring you, it just took off from there. So I love using these. I've always loved using my hands, always been into mechanics, and I get a great thrill from somebody. Most of the work I do is restoration. I do a bit of sales, as you may have seen from my website. That's because I can't resist buying things at antique fairs and making them work. But nothing gives me a greater kick than actually somebody giving me something that's beaten up and it doesn't work and it's broken, and then I put it all back together, make it work, test it, and give it back to them. And that's a really good feeling. I feel I've done something. You know? So that's what I do to earn a penny or two to keep me in beer and crisps. And the other thing I do, which really floats my boat, is, excuse the pun, is that I'm, for 40 odd years, I've been a very keen water skier, and I'm now a coach and boat driver, and I work at a local club, and
Wow.
get a great kick from doing that. I really do, particularly working with youngsters, which kind of fits in with the being childless thing. And that, again, that just kind of went that way. So I specialise in sort of the novice area and getting people off 2 skis onto 1 ski, and then getting into slalom. I used to compete, but yeah, I'm too old and grey and fat now. But I do still ski. So that's me.
Wow, water skiing and rejuvenating old electric. My goodness me, that's incredible.
Yeah, I try not to combine the two. It's a bit dangerous.
Could be interesting. Oh wow, fantastic! Thank you, Mike.
I'm Caroline. I have a business called The Kitchen. So I've been baking my biscuits that I do through my business for 7.5 years now. So we bake and hand stamp biscuits that we call edible inspiration. So the idea is that we send them through the post. People order them through our website to send to people to kind of drop through their letterbox unexpectedly to brighten up their day.
Lovely idea.
Yeah, it started with one set of biscuits that I was actually sending to a friend who was going through fertility treatment, as we were at the time. And then it's evolved over the next 7 years, and I started on my kitchen table, and I now have a little bakery, and we send biscuits for all sorts of occasions, but predominantly it's hugs in biscuits. So I kind of like to think of it as we're kind of the facilitator that just allow people to do kind things for each other. And it's lovely, and it brings me so much, such a sense of purpose and so much joy. So I've done that for 7.5 years. Really love it. Find a lot of meaning and a lot of joy from it. But I'm just embarking on another new beginning, because I'm just at the moment training to be a health coach, which again has sort of come directly from the last 10 years that we've been through. So hoping to work with people alongside the biscuiting, working with people to help them kind of find their own joy and their kind of purpose and their optimum health, really. So that's kind of another new beginning that I'm about to embark on, which took me a while to work out how to marry the two. And a few people have said, but you sell biscuits and then you want to coach people how to be healthy, which is a point I get, and I did grapple with that for a little while. But to me, health is about so much more than what we put in our bodies. That's super important, but it's such a bigger picture of how we connect, how we communicate, how we live, you know, our whole kind of holistic lifestyle. And I qualified as a yoga teacher last year, and I love teaching. I only teach once a week, and that's kind of led me to think more about wellness being a whole thing. And to me, the biscuits fit perfectly because they're kind of an act of care, self-care. They encourage people to stop, put the kettle on, take 5 minutes for themselves, and kind of just have that space, create that space in the day. So I've decided the two actually work really beautifully together. So yeah, I don't know where it'll go, but I'm excited to see where the next new beginning takes me, I suppose.
Lovely. Thank you, Caroline.
Pleasure.
I'm just sitting here thinking, yeah, you could. I guess you could do the biscuits. You don't have to eat the biscuits, do you? I guess.
No, but you know what? I think anything, even within kind of health and wellness, I'm never one for suggesting anything should be cut out of anyone's diet completely. And I think we do a lot of sort of these single biscuits that are just kind of a perfect size to dunk in your cuppa. And I just think actually we're not, we don't want to eat a pack of hobnobs in one sitting, but mindfully sitting down,
don't we?
Then exactly. So it's a lovely thing to do.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really struck by how eclectic everything is at the moment. Water skiing, electrics, health coaching, making biscuits. It's amazing. Thank you.
So Vicky House, it's your turn.
Yeah.
Hello. I feel connected to both Mike and Caroline, really, in different ways. I suppose my story is that after losing a baby and then finding out that we couldn't have kids, and a fair amount of time grieving and trying to come to terms with that, my husband and I just decided to make a bit of a clean break of it, in a sense. And we left our home in Brighton, and we decided that we were going to look for a building to adopt. And we eventually found an amazing arts and crafts building in Huddersfield in Yorkshire. We didn't know anyone in Huddersfield. But this building, we decided, needed the love that we might have put into our family. Very frayed around the edges, needed lots of work. And that is at the centre of our lives now. That's what gives us meaning. And with this building, there was a pretty big garden. The building used to belong to the local council, and they ran it as a day centre. And in the grounds, there was the ragged remains of a gardening project they had at the day centre. Polytunnels that were absolutely shredded. In fact, in one of the polytunnels, there was filing cabinets. They'd obviously just stripped the building and just dumped stuff everywhere. And it was completely overgrown. And it took a bit of time to decide what we were going to do with this land. But the idea came of starting up a social enterprise for volunteers. We're all volunteers. We've called it Clem's Garden because Clem is the baby we lost. And it's a place where we grow and sell organic cut flowers. And it's a place particularly for other people who are childless. They can come and be part of this social enterprise and find a role and a place for their nurturing to go as well. And we raise money from the sales of our flowers to support other local community projects. And just like Caroline, we are big into trying to inspire kindness in the local community. So we often donate jars of our flowers for people who are going to visit neighbours or friends who might be going through a tough time in their local community. So Clem's is very much where most of my time and energy goes this at the moment, and over the last 5 years. And then in between times, I kind of feel like I might have seen Mike's business online, because as we renovate our labour of love, this building called Briar Court, we're interested in, all bits of furniture and stuff as well. So I may have seen you online, Mike. So that's what I do.
That's good. Well, do have a look. If I can help with anything, do let me know.
Yeah.
Wow.
So inspiring.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? I'm curious. So was it the building initially then that you were interested in, and then it turned into the garden?
Yeah. It was one of those, I don't know, sometimes you just need a long car journey to have a different sort of conversation with your partner, if you've got a partner. And we had one of these long car journeys, and we're always into watching these kind of property programs and people doing up buildings and that kind of thing, just to chill out. But my other half, Dunk, was saying, you know, when eventually he gets to retire, he's quite interested in this idea of taking on a building and working on it. I mean, what we didn't take into account is that we have very few manual skills between us, but the idea seemed like a lovely one. And I thought that was the end of the conversation. But he's one of these people that once he gets a bit between his teeth, suddenly I'm getting links from property websites and things in my inbox. I'm thinking, hang on a minute, this was just like one of those conversations, those dream conversations you have. But it just shows, I mean, if you've got an idea, and there was nothing tying us, because the whole family thing, that the son had set on that, and he's got quite a portable job, and we just thought, well, let's give it a go, let's try something different. And it's been a really brilliant kind of opportunity. And for saying we moved here and didn't know anyone, and we didn't have the school gates to meet new people, and Dunk's job is elsewhere. The building and then establishing Clem's Garden on the back of that has just opened up so many new relationships and opportunities and joy, and it's just been such a brilliant move for us.
How long have you been doing that, Vicky?
So we moved to Yorkshire in 2014. So we started on the building then, and then Clem's Garden had its 5th birthday this year. And there was a bit of setting up behind, before the 5 years. I don't have a business background at all. I come from working in the NHS. I worked in mental health in the NHS. That was my career. So there was a lot to learn. I'm not a gardener. So there was a lot to learn, certainly on the business side. But yeah, 5 years is how long Clem's has been up and running.
And you say you're established as a social enterprise.
Yeah.
I don't wish to pry, but I wonder how you fund certain things, and I don't answer that. But the reason I'm asking that question is the charity I ran after I'd left the city was actually a community foundation. It was the one based in Buckinghamshire. And it's just that sort of the community foundations, very briefly, they match local needs with local donors. So they're like a conduit, really. They don't focus on one particular thing. It's a really rewarding job. I loved it. But if you ever did need help, and it need not necessarily be financial, it might be advice or something like that. I know that I think there's a community foundation for the whole of Yorkshire. You may have heard of them, but always worth approaching.
Thanks very much, Mike. I mean, we did start off with grant funding from our local community foundation called One Community.
Ah, right. Okay.
But now, and this is what we always wanted to be, we didn't want to be reliant on grants.
No.
But the ethos of Clem's is that we take pride and we find a role and a sense of purpose when we don't find that in our families. So we always wanted to be self-sufficient. So the flower sales have to support the running of the business. As I say, none of us are paid, so we don't have wages to pay. And then the profits at the end of the year, and they're always going to be very modest profits, they always get donated to the community foundation so that we can help other local community projects. If Clem's gets to the point where we can't be self-sustaining, then I think we walk away. We don't want to be dependent on, charity or whatever. We're quite proud people, really.
I'm struck by, I've kind of got this string running through all these stories that you're telling, your stories of how you do what you do and how you came to do it. Community is sort of really in my face at the moment, in terms of this is what we're doing, this is what I'm doing, I'm giving back, sort of the water skiing, the gardening, the biscuits. It seems to be about support and letting people know that actually there is a community that they can go to when they need to. Doesn't matter what it is based around, but there is this sense of community and putting people together.
Yeah, we have a hashtag at Clem's, which is community is family. And when you don't have family of your own, then community is everything. And I think there was a sense that we wanted to be a beacon within our local community. When we moved to Huddersfield, I just remember, I know you talk about bingo, and one of the bingos for us was, you've moved to a brilliant place. It's a great place for families. And I was thinking, oh, that's good. And I want there to be a place where people who are childless knew that they could find a safe space where people weren't going to be talking about their families all the time. So it's partly that, and it's partly for me having a stake in the local community so that people within the local community can see the value in what we do, and maybe we challenge some of the lazy assumptions that you hear from time to time, that childless people have no stake in the future or the world, or are selfish, or the Andrea Lebsome kind of effect, that we wanted to show that actually we're all about nurturing and kindness and community, because community really, really is meaningful to us. It's a lifeline at the end of the day.
Kind of chosen family, isn't it, really?
Exactly that.
Yeah.
So, Caroline, I was going to ask you, your biscuits.
Yeah.
You said they were born out of the fact that you kind of sending kindness to somebody else that was going through fertility treatment. Yeah. I was curious, so what sort of messages do you usually get asked for, without obviously breaking confidentiality? Yeah. What sort of things are you sending out in biscuit form?
So we have a lot of messages. We grow our sort of range on the website all the time, often inspired by the messages that people are asking for. So one of our most popular ones, which I love, is I don't know who invented sending flowers when times are tough. Biscuits are far more practical, which I really like. And we always send that one. It goes out with a tea bag, so it kind of just has that real nice, it's that really nice encouragement for people to just kind of stop for a moment. But we do an awful lot of hugs and biscuits, which during the 2 years of COVID were. We were struggling to keep up with demand for those when we couldn't hug people in person. But things like just to let you know we're thinking of you every day. That can be really, really simple messages. And then we have a new range that are a little bit more like almost like a tiny, not a poem, but a bit longer, a little bit more of a message. Just a lot of them are about friendship. A lot of them are just, there's one that says, one of our bestsellers says, I know biscuits can't even begin to make things better, but I hope this just brightens your day a little bit and reminds you that you are loved. And I just love the thought of just this unexpected, it's exactly, what Vicky was saying, it's that sense of community and that sense of connection and that ability for somebody to just reach out to somebody and let them know that they're not on their own and that somebody's kind of with them, whether or not they can be kind of with them in person. And we have like a range of You Choose biscuits where people can choose their own messages, which are always really, really lovely to read as well. And we're really sort of adaptable, so we will edit our range depending on what people ask us for, I suppose. It's just a different way of sending that message, I suppose, of just making somebody feel thought about and cared for and valued, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It is, flowers, biscuits, chocolates. It's all valid, isn't it? I'm curious though. I was wondering, and this question comes from Berenice, so I'm going to credit Berenice for this one. She was sort of saying, so obviously we're all part of this childless community. She was curious, how is it for you if you get asked to do christenings and things like that? Is that tricky for you, or are you kind of like, well, no, it's just a biscuit, I'm fine with it?
It totally depends on how I'm feeling on that day. Yeah. Sometimes it's fine, and I have got a lot better at, I've really struggled initially with things like occasions such as Mother's Day and things like that, because there's a point where this is a business, this is what I do to pay my mortgage. So I have to have a business hat that I put on sometimes.
Yeah.
But when we do occasions like that, I always make sure we have a part of the range that is with people in mind who perhaps don't find the day as easy for whatever reason. There's, you know, myriad reasons, aren't there, why Mother's Day is hard. So whenever we're doing any occasion, Father's Day, even at Christmas, I really try and make sure that there is something within that range that's always in my mind, is thinking, well, you know, sort of making sure that there is something to kind of with, you know, for that, more of that. But yeah, sometimes it's fine, and sometimes it's really hard, and it just depends on how, you know, how I'm feeling, how my week's going, what's been happening for me. And it's the same, I think, generally with the situation we're all in with not having children in general, is it never goes away. You know, it's never something that we get over and one day we're fine and we've moved on, which is one of the hard things, I think, isn't it, is accepting that there will be those days. I have days when I'm just completely blindsided. Something will happen and I just have that feeling of I'm never going to experience that, or whatever it is. And I think we just have to learn to be kind to ourselves. And when we do have those days, and when I have them at work, I quite often will just walk away and say, well, I'm not doing those. You know, that's not something for me to do today. It can wait. I need to just, I think we all learn as time goes on. We develop those ways to listen to ourselves a bit more and be kind to ourselves, and kind of, and make that space for ourselves when things don't feel easy, I guess.
I can completely relate to that in terms of that expression you use is one I use, which is be kind to yourself. Yeah, there are times when, yeah, it's just for whatever reason it comes down on you like a ton of bricks. It's never going to change. It's always going to happen. Occasionally, you hope that the frequency of that reduces, but when it does happen, I always say to them, just be kind, just do something you want to do. Bugger everyone else, excuse the language, but if I want to go and do this, as long as I'm not breaking the law, I'm going to do it. And I go off and do it. Or don't do it, like you say. Sometimes you say, I'm not doing that today. That's it. I'm gonna stop work. I don't want to do that light. I'm going to sit and watch the football on the telly, and that's what I do. So I can completely relate to that. To the be kind to yourself. Yeah,
it's hard, isn't it, though, because I think we live in a world that encourages us to just push through. You know, whenever, you know, push those feelings down, crack on, because we've got to keep moving forward. And actually, no, we don't. We need to listen to them and acknowledge them and feel those feelings when we feel them, and be like a bit understanding with ourselves, as you say, kind, and just
without a doubt, squashing those feelings but it just doesn't work, because they just fester and grow and grow and grow, and then there's an explosion of some description. I quite agree.
Sure.
I think it's maybe easier in a sense for us being a community project, and no one's relying on the income in a way, but in small ways, in order to protect ourselves, we also put a few boundaries in place as well. And I think that's okay to do. So for example, I mean, we do have some days at Clem's where all comers are welcome. And we do have some days that are ring fenced for those of us who are childless. Within the volunteers, where all comers are welcome, we have a rule that we don't have children on site, because for me, and at the end of the day, it is the garden that's part of my home. Having parents and kids on site is too much for me. It doesn't matter how old the kids are. It will always be a milestone that reminds me of Clem and where I would have been within my parenting journey had things turned out differently. So I draw that boundary to protect myself. And some people might not understand that. But as Mike says, bugger it. You know, you have to just do, whether it's self-care in a different way, or drawing a boundary, or finding someone else to take on a particular task if it's too much. Then I think it's playing the long game and thinking what is going to sustain you in the long term, rather than jumping through every hoop that everybody presents to you from day to day. I think self-care is, as everyone seems to be saying, it's vital, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely.
Well, society is so geared towards the family, and that's in some of my posts on our site. You'll see that it when I'm not feeling particularly great about this, it really makes me angry. I deliberately will go to Tesco's and park in the mother and child space. Why shouldn't I? Why have I got to have a child to park near the door? Either that, or I take my 95-year-old mother, and then we tick the box. So, but
never thought of that.
Sorry. Oh, no, actually, I don't anymore because she's actually in a home now. But when she was in the late 80s, I did. I used to take her shopping, and I'd park. You can't park here. Yes, I can. It's mother, child. There you go. You're 88. I'm 58. So what? So, but we did it. It's society's so geared towards the children. The families with children. I mean, the whole tax system is, and it really grinds me down, and at times, and I just have to deal with it my own way. And so, I'm not doing that, and I'm not going to join in on that because you're not thinking about us. Although I think I get the impression that awareness of childless adults not through choice is growing a little bit. I mean, it's painfully slow, but I certainly bang the drum when I feel in the mood. And it's funny how people just sort of sit bolt upright and listen and nod. They're understanding.
Yeah, you're right though, because it's difficult because we are fed that narrative so strongly that the point of us is to have family, have children. Yeah. This is the legacy we leave. And whilst we absolutely know, because we all feel the meaning we feel and the purpose we feel in a completely different way, in a completely different set of circumstances, we know that there can be joy and meaning and purpose without having children. But when we're fed that narrative so consistently from every single angle, I find sometimes I have to really step away and kind of talk myself back through the fact that it's okay, because it's really hard not to feel it when we are so bombarded with it. It's a daily, I think it's a daily choice we have to, a daily thing we have to be aware of, isn't it?
Yep.
And it's hard.
Yeah, it is. You get, I think there are so many things in life that are geared towards the family and geared towards children. I think I'm not anti-children. We were all children. We wouldn't be here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, quite. But you just think, well, society in itself is just not thinking about us, and do you know what? It ain't easy at times, and and that's why I would like to do my bit to raise awareness, and I do. I try anyway.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that message. We're not anti-children. We aren't, are we?
No.
We're doing our bit in our ways, but we have to have, as Vicky said, we have to have those boundaries because we're going to have good days, not so good days. So I love that. And it feels to me that actually in various different ways you are claiming your bit in society. So, Mike, you're doing your water skiing with kids. Vicky, you're doing the garden, but you're very, you have to have boundaries because obviously that garden has specific meanings to you. So it's actually, this has got to be a bit protected. And then Caroline, obviously your biscuits, like some days it's going to be, I can't do that today. I'll do something different. But I love the thought that actually for every biscuit that has that child family slant, you've got the anti one as well. That to me really appeals. That must be great. You must have to do a couple of them, and then you thought, all right, I need to rebalance here and do one that's not.
Yeah, we did this year as well for Mother's Day and Father's Day. We did like cat mums and dog mums biscuits, which was so popular, and that was really that was quite a nice, a bit more kind of a lighter way to do it, I suppose. We always see them that are kind of sort of ones that are sort of thinking of you today especially type thing. but the cat and dog mum ones were just plant mums, because that's, you know, it's nice to have that kind of. Sometimes it doesn't have to feel so heavy, does it? It's lovely to be thought of, but it can be a little bit lighter, I think, sometimes as well. And there are days when that's just what we need, isn't it? You know, it's balance, isn't it, I suppose?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to take my mum shopping with me next time, Mike, actually.
Yeah, do.
I think that's a great idea.
I'm really thinking of you.
Yeah. We had
Mum,
to
we
stop
can do
it.
this.
Unfortunately, I was too big to get in the trolley, so she could push me around. Yeah.
Oh, I can do it. I'm only 5'2".
Oh, yeah, there you go.
But I love that. So it's kind of, for me, what I really feel is the fact that we all sit with the heaviness, but actually we can do different things with it. Because obviously we're not given an instruction booklet, are we, on how to handle this? And it's kind of, I'm really taken by each and every one of yours different ways of coping with it. I think our listeners are going to get a lot out of that, because it can get very heavy, can't it? It can get a bit like, ugh. But actually we all find different ways to deal with it.
And also, I think I know when we were coming to the end of our, I really dislike the word journey, but I find it so difficult to find an alternative experience. I remember talking to a few people who had gone off and done huge things. You know, they'd sold everything up and they'd travelled the world, or they'd done. And I remember thinking, I don't really want to do something huge and massive. I need to feel like I'm having an impact. I need to feel like I'm doing something, but it doesn't have to be this huge life-changing thing that I could only do if we didn't have children, you know. And I think that's been a real learn for me, is that it's sometimes we don't have to do huge things. And I know, you know, Vicky, for you moving up to her, that is a huge thing, and it's beautiful.
Brave as well.
So brave, yeah. And I think, and that works, you know, that's absolutely right for some of us, isn't it? And for some of us, it's a smaller thing, I suppose. And it's just interesting, isn't it? We're all different, and we all kind of need to create something different in our lives in so many different ways, I suppose.
Yeah, and Sarah, I think you used the key word there about find. You said, have we find another way? And I think that's quite a key word, because sometimes if you look too hard for it, you won't find it. And I mean, from my point of view, I suppose the two things are the water ski coach, and that was kind of natural because I'd been a very keen water skier for so many decades, and that was just a way of putting something back into the sport. And it just so happened that I tended to, as I said earlier, concentrate and be quite good with youngsters. But the anti-lighting restoration thing, that literally just fell into my lap. I wasn't looking for it. It just kind of happened. And this guy said, can I try to fix these? I thought, well, I'll have a go. And actually what happened was I started having to buy parts, new cable, new bulb holders, etc. And I was going to a local lighting shop in Gerrards Cross in Buckinghamshire, and I kept going back in there to buy the bits, and the manager in there, who I now know very well, he said to me, "What is it, you again? What are you doing with all this stuff?" I said, "Well, I'm repairing some old lights." He said, "Oh, well, we used to do that. We don't do it anymore. Give me some of your business cards and I'll give them out, because we still get loads of inquiries for restoration work." I said, "Well, I don't have any business cards." He said, "Well, get some printed, you idiot." So I did, and the business took off from there. And he's still going. In fact, I went in to give him a box of chocolates for Christmas Day before yesterday, and still 70% of my business comes from that one shop. And that just fell into my lap. And I get such a sense of achievement, as I say, from using these two things and a load of tools. And yeah, so sometimes it comes to you when you're not even looking for it.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, Vicky, you with the gardening, you said I'm not a gardener.
Yeah, correct.
Oh, I know. I am
a business person.
Yeah, you must be now.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just thinking. I think there's a danger in being asked to tell your story, that it sounds very simple, Sounds as if it's just, well, you set out with this idea and then you go and implement it, and then before you know it, you've got this, that, or the other. That's your plan B. But I think, well, I know the reality is very different. If I look back, and if you were looking through my window over the last 10 years, you would have seen so many ups and downs. You would have seen days where I was unable to do anything, days where I was unable to leave the house because I just couldn't face seeing people. There were days where I couldn't put the television on because I thought, if I see one more bloody nappy advert, I'm just not going to have to deal with it. So I'm looking at this sort of 10 years, more than 10 years since I lost Clem. And I'm looking at it through the lens of where I'm at today. And I think, as Caroline said, I can still have shitty days where everything doesn't seem terrific and everything seems a struggle. Luckily, those days are far more few and far between than they have been. But it is about, as Caroline was saying, that the little victory sometimes. And I think that the move towards doing something like Clem's was about reclaiming some confidence. I felt that my sense of self had been eroded. I also sort of stepped away from my career, so that was another loss for me. And it was about just trying to rebuild life in some way, just brick by brick, step by step. And as I say, 13 years on or whatever it is, suddenly you've actually built a bit of a thing. But if I'd thought of doing any of this at the time of trying to have a family, I would never have imagined it would be possible, and that there would be a life beyond it. So, yeah, I just to, I suppose, be aware that this plan B thing isn't this magical rabbit you pull out of a hat. Comes from, just taking baby steps. Sorry for the language there. But I think it also comes from finding other people to support you along the way. A big milestone in this for me, rebuilding confidence and finding support, was joining Gateway Women. And in fact, one of the co-directors of Clem's was my best friend who I met there, and I wouldn't have been able to navigate the journey without her. So it's not this monumental journey I've made on my own. It continues to be about having a network of people that understand, and part of that is about being brave enough to speak about how you're feeling and what it's like to be childless as well, I think.
Wise words. Mike, I'm really interested to understand, with your water skiing and coaching the youngsters, are there times when that's tough? Is it just purely you're focused on the activity and helping these kids? Because I could imagine in my mind, I'm trying to picture this scenario, and I know that because I've done this in the past, where I'll be looking at the interaction of a father and son, let's say. Sorry to just pick on the males, but that just comes to mind. And watching that interaction and get that pang of grief come through. So I'd be interested to hear, how that's for you.
I'm smiling wryly, Michael, because that's actually a very, very good question. When I'm actually doing it in the boat and sometimes on the land, particularly with complete beginners, just completely focused on what I'm doing and the task, get such a kick from it, love the sport, been skiing for 40 years and more, and get great feedback. And I'm a member of a small number of coaches at the club, and I can coach up to competition standard, but we all seem to seem to specialize in one particular area, and it just so happens I seem to be better with novices and particularly youngsters, and I get a great kick from that. So yeah, when I'm doing it, just focus on what we're doing. Great kid or youngster gets to do something they couldn't do last week. Big smiles, big rounds of applause. Love it. Just join in with it. But then the right smile came because you mentioned about, then seeing that interaction between the parent, which of course you get. And there was an actual occasion where that happened, where it was a real turning point for me, and I knew I needed help. As a couple who used to come at the weekend, we still do, great friends of mine now. He's actually a very, very eminent QC, or KC now, King's Counsel. So he's a barrister, very well known. And anyway, they would come with their youngsters, and I actually taught both their son and daughter to ski, and I used to do Saturday mornings. And that was 10, 15 years ago that I first started to teach them. And so those children have grown up now. And this friend of mine, who I better remain nameless actually because of his prominence, he had a 60th birthday shortly after mine, and we got invited to his party up in a swanky club in London. And it was a fantastic evening. And his daughter came in because she'd just come back from university, and I obviously remember her as a little youngster who I taught, holding her in the water, etc., and turned out to be quite a good skier. And she just looked I don't know how old she was, 20, 21 maybe. She was absolutely stunning. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this in the wrong. Actually, I looked at her and thought, wow. And this friend of mine obviously gave his daughter a huge hug, and I just witnessed it, and I was so jealous. The tears just started pouring down my face, and I had to just disappear. Thankfully, in terms of embarrassment, nobody saw it. And there and then I thought, you're not coping with this. I need help. So yeah, and I mean, I think it was particularly prominent because this chap and his wife have become very, very close friends of mine. I see them a lot, and it was just jealousy. I thought, Christ, I'm never going to get that. It didn't happen at my 60th birthday. I didn't have any kids to come to. I mean, I had a lovely time, but with all my friends, and I always say, and I think this is actually a part of the situation we find ourselves in, that for me, my most prized and valuable possession and anything I've got are my friends. I value them more than anything I own or anything I've got, even more than family, really, because you don't get to choose them. With no disrespect to my family, but my friends, I chose them and they chose me. So that was, I had a lovely time. But that occasion of, well, I called him, his first name's Richard, you won't work it out from there. Richard's 60th birthday. It was instantaneous. I thought, what the hell's going on? What happened just then? Why did that happen? And I did then go and get some help, which, was a help. It doesn't cure anything, doesn't change anything, gives you some different tools of dealing with stuff. So, it does happen, Mike.
No, look, thank you for sharing that, Mike, because, speaking on behalf of, a lot of men, as we see the stories in our group, it's not easy for us to admit those things. It's not easy for us to talk about them. So thanks for having the courage to do so. Really appreciate that.
Pleasure.
Mind you, I'm sitting here thinking I was going to give you a challenge about getting me up on the ski, getting this fat ass up on the ski. A funny story. My mate took me water skiing many years ago, and it was one of those sports I vowed never to do again because I just could not get this lump out of the water.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm laughing.
That sounds like a
challenge. Let me ask you two questions. Can you swim?
I'm in Australia. Of course I can swim.
Right. Can you ride a bike?
Yes. I have done many times.
On that basis, I'm confident I could teach you to water ski.
Oh, it's a challenge.
All right.
I've only ever had one person I could not get out of the water in 30 odd years.
Wow.
Sometimes it takes a while, but you've got to have the right equipment. You've got to have a proper competition boat with a boom coming out the side.
Yeah.
Which is how we begin. But go to Mike if you want to do it. go to a place that's got the right equipment. In fact, whereabouts in Oz are you?
I'm in a place called Wollongong, so it's about 80 kilometres south of Sydney. So we're on the coast.
Oh, okay. Right.
You've got to get a trip over.
Yeah,
well, there's
get a
that.
holiday
There's a young lass who, I call her young, in fact, she's just become a mum, who used to ski with us at my local club, and I don't quite know why she emigrated to America with her husband. But anyway, she did, and they're having an absolute ball down there. She's a brilliant skier, and she's a coach, and she's somewhere on that East Coast. I'll email
can I just say it's a long
name.
East Coast?
Sorry?
It's a long East Coast.
Well, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm from Britain. She's somewhere anyway. I will email you her contact details. I bet Sarah could get you out of the water. There's a challenge for you now.
Fair enough. Updates.
Talking about, well, not challenges, but talking about other things. I'm just sitting here listening to you guys. Is affecting me quite profoundly, and I'm trying to find the vocabulary to talk about it. And I think Sarah's really done a great job in as she does, is encapsulating what's been going on here and talking about, stop me from coming from the UK in 2019, because I was going to come and see you, Vicky.
I know. It'll happen.
And you know what? I don't want this to sound bad, but I'm sort of glad that we didn't, because now I know your story. My Vicky would never have left because she loves her gardening. She is dying to get an old house to do up, because every time I come in, she's looking at a show about somewhere in the UK or somewhere in France or Portugal, an old house that doing up. So I would have had to come home by myself, I'm sure.
Hey, it sounds like we're kindred spirits, us Vickies. Definitely have to come over. Yeah, that would be great.
No, we intend to. Which brings me on to another thing. So, one of the things that I like, and I don't really talk about myself too much because this is your show, but I love doing the family tree. So Caroline knows where I'm going with this now, because she said to me that she would do some research, because Vicky's family, my Vicky's family, we've traced to very close to where Caroline lives. And although it's her married name, Stafford, that was the name of my wife's family in that area of the UK. And so I really love the whole investigation thing with the whole family tree. So I'm dying to know, Caroline, is your husband's family related to Vicky? I'm just dying to know.
I haven't found out. I know,
because you would have told me.
I would have told you. Yeah, I would have told you. I will put that back on my list. Once all my Christmas biscuits are out on their way, I will get looking back into that. Yeah,
I'll send you a message. I'll send you a message with where they were situated, and you can ask your in-laws. But now it's on a podcast, so you got to do it.
Yeah, I got to do it now. Send me that, because they're away they're cruising. My husband's parents are off on a cruise at the moment, so they won't have much to do. So if I send them on a WhatsApp, they'll love a bit of research while they're sunning themselves. Sure.
Incredible.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing, though. I mean, I don't think that there's that many degrees of separation through most people, is there? Weirdly, so my sister-in-law's, she was married before, I don't want to give too much away, but her then partner was related to me through my nan. And I was like, oh, that's a bit odd, isn't it? I said to him, he sort of said, are we all right to get married because we're related? It's striking how closely, when you start looking at these things.
It's a scary old thing, isn't it? I've been doing my family tree for a long time, decades, and I started it really before I knew I wouldn't have children, because I'm the only one carrying the name. My father was an only son. I'm an only son, and I have no cousins carrying the name. Well, I didn't until very recently. I found my second cousin with the same name. He's a couple of years older than me. He's also into antiques, but sadly, he doesn't have children either. I don't know why, because we've only just sort of found each other, literally within the last 6 weeks, and we haven't met yet. So I don't know why he doesn't have children, but it rather looks like the name's going to die. But the really interesting thing is that I did a DNA test with Ancestry UK to try and help with this process. And actually, that wasn't how I found him, but it's kicked up something else. It's kicked up this lady who really, really oddly enough, lives very close to me. And apparently we're first or second cousins, and we cannot work it out. And now then we started looking at geography of where her parents came from and my parents came from, and then our grandparents. And it looks like there may have been some dalliance somewhere with my maternal grandmother and her maternal grandfather. So we're getting my mum to do a DNA test to see if there's any link. It was like, oh my God.
Wow. It could be a soap, couldn't it?
And in fact, I don't remember her because she died when I was about 4, I think. My maternal grandmother, she was a bit of a girl, apparently. She, even my mum now will say she was always the first one to get up at a party and start dancing and this, and there's some other stories that, it's wholly believable, let me put it that way.
She sounds phenomenal.
Well, you think about it, you think, well, they didn't do that sort of thing in those days, did it? Well, yes, they did, and before, and since, and forevermore. It just goes on, you just got more chance of getting caught now.
Wow. God, that's so interesting, isn't it? We had ours traced back, and I was hoping for some blue blood. I'm not going to lie. I was hoping, go and tap some some cash, and nothing. It was literally servants and farmers.
Yeah, I've got the same thing.
Mine's pretty much like that. Although there's a few bakers in my family, which is really interesting. My mum's done a lot of research, and not far from us in Peterborough, we found some, I can't remember what relative it is, that had like a bakery and a confectioner's, which I thought was quite nice.
Yes, that fits what you're doing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
Isn't that the bizarrest thing?
Oh, I've got family tree envy because this wasn't going to be about family trees, but anyway. So I've got family tree envy because all I've got are Scottish and Irish, rebels and people in skirts and digging potatoes. Whereas Vicky, on the other hand, I get really excited talking about it, as you will see, because hers is so vast and rich. It is unbelievable. So we've been able to trace back someone to the Americas. Well, actually, no. Round about the time of the Pilgrim Fathers, about a decade or two after they left, we've been able to trace her relatives following. So they've gone to Massachusetts, and obviously the family has grown. So they have history in the American War of Independence, the American Civil War. There's potentially she's related to a number of American presidents because, of course, and distantly, because of the fact that, that part of her gene pool has been in America for so long. Then when you look around in this particular area in Australia, the Staffords, who came from England, he was in the British Army, went to India, and then from the foothills of the Himalaya ends up down here in Wollongong and was a big landowner. Part of that family started the local paper. Another one was landowner on her father's side, a bit further up the coast, which is now worth millions. Of course, the question is, where's all the money gone? Because I want some. And another grandfather 4 times removed, or 4 generations back, was a ship's captain that delivered product all the way down the coast here back in the day. So I've loved it. I've actually loved research of that one.
Yeah.
And just, I've got envy.
Yeah. Wow. I've got envy.
Yeah.
But do the DNA test. They're awesome because they kick up so much stuff. There's so many stories that have come from that. And the reason I brought that up is because for me, I hope that all that research that I've done is there for others.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I quite agree with that. Yeah.
Like, in a weird way, that's kind of what we've been talking about today, isn't it? Legacy, I guess. You know, giving to the community, and as Vicky rightly said, it's not, you don't go questing for this. You might fall into it. You know, you just don't know what your skill set is until you're, I guess, you know, those traditional, you're going to be parents fall away, and then you are, it's kind of incumbent on you to go looking at your skill set, isn't it, and going, well, how do I build myself back up again? I guess that's kind of what we've been talking about today, in a roundabout sort of way, isn't it?
Definitely.
So
one of the things that, sorry, Sarah, but one of the things that we see in the community of childless men is that there's a lot of men say, well, what is my purpose now? What do I do? How do I contribute? And I think this conversation has really shown that it's just to be open to what's around you. Be open to what falls your way, falls in your lap. You use whatever metaphor you like. You know, I think that's important.
My friend always says it's about looking for the arrows. So they can just be really small ones, but you see a little arrow and you follow that, and then you follow that, and you take that step, and you take that step, and then, you know, it leads to something, and it's just those small, you know, things like Vicky was saying, you know, it's easy to look. I always associate it with marathon running, which I used to do and I don't do anymore. That we start at the beginning and we look to where we want to go, and we think there is no way. How can I ever be there? Like, how can I ever do that? And we have to come back to remembering that it's those tiny, small steps, following those small arrows, taking those little steps day by day. And it might be 2 steps forward and 3 steps back sometimes. But it's those small steps and checking in all the time, I think, in ourselves. And what is this? Does this feel right? Is this bringing me a sense of meaning? Is this what I think I might want my life to feel like rather than look like, I think, isn't it? And then we kind of suddenly we're somewhere and we realise that we have created that. I like that talk of legacy, because sometimes it feels quite big, and sometimes you can bring it back and think, but it can be the smallest thing that we don't know the impact those small things that we're doing are having, like, you know, with Mike and his coaching and Vicky and her communities. It feels sometimes like a small thing we're doing, but we have no idea sometimes of the huge impact it can have, and we don't know how far that travels down the line for people, do we? It's so important to remember that, I think.
Vicky, I was going to ask you, and to get around to it, with your garden, Clem's garden, did you have that as your ultimate goal, or did you just take one step at a time and see where it took you? When
we moved here, we had a completely different plan.
Right, good.
We came here, and it's a substantial building, and, you know, we're really lucky to be here. It's all about the vagaries of the housing market in the UK. You move from Brighton and you sell your semi, and suddenly you can afford to buy something that's a bit special. And I suppose we moved here with the idea of setting up a business within the house, an art space business probably. But I think we had the luxury of not having any deadlines to work towards. And you can't imagine how it is to renovate a property until you're actually in and amongst it. And then we realised how much we'd bitten off.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, so.
And so these grand ideas of what we were going to do with the place, they suddenly kind of got further and further away. And we had to take the renovations a step at a time, and as money was available as well. And in doing that and taking a breath, and within the process, rather than just chasing something that was further away, I think I became more aware of the garden and the garden as an opportunity, and enjoyed being in the garden. and then began thinking, well, actually this garden is too big for us. What could we do? We've got this cracking infrastructure that the council left behind. We've got outdoor labs, we've got a car park, we've got all kinds of random bits and pieces. What can we do with that? And it, you know, and little bits of the puzzle fall into place. It's not something that we woke up one morning thinking we would do. It's something that's come, as you said, Michael, about getting to a place in your life where you can be open to opportunities. I think there was a long time where I was blinded by my grief and in particular feeling angry, and maybe seeing the opportunity to have a positive future. And I think it's only by, for me, getting beyond that point, by looking after myself, by finding some more people who understood, by having conversations, by time moving forward, that actually you can begin to think, well, there are positive things and there are little bits and pieces that I can be doing, and maybe this is possible, and maybe this person can help me, and maybe I can build the confidence, and maybe I can learn new things. And so it kind of evolved. That was a very long answer to your question.
No,
we didn't come with the idea of doing Clems.
Also made me think that actually what you've done there then is what Caroline was saying. You just spotted the little arrows. It wasn't a great big one.
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely that.
Wow. I was just I'm just thinking about how inspiring you three are, really, your individual stories, because there's so much, you know, when we emailed, you know, Mike wanted to talk about water skiing, but there's so much more to that water skiing than just, yeah, I'll teach people how to water ski. You know, there's so much more to Caroline, your biscuits, and what the story is behind that. A beautiful story and so rich. You know, that again would be inspiring to our community, I think, because there are those who feel quite lost, and yeah, it doesn't have to be the big things. And Vicky, look, I mean, I've renovated this small house. I know how bad that was while trying to live in it. You know, so I take my hat off to you, but you know, I just, yeah, look, I'm struggling with the words to just say how inspirational you are with what you've done and how brave you are, but also you have a lot to teach people in that, you know, that they can trust our community, they can find solace in our community. And there's so much they can find in there. So I'm really looking forward to coming over to England and seeing you three, to be quite honest.
Likewise.
Yeah, be brilliant.
But I just make sure that Vicky spends a very limited time with the other Vicky, Vicky House, because I know what's going to go on.
Boundaries, Michael.
Yeah, well, that's it. I'm going to use that. Well, what you know, if I use that on my Vicky, I'm not quite sure. You know, that'll work. You know, anyway.
No, it's been so lovely talking to all three of you. As Michael said, when we sort of put this together, we're going water skiing, electrician, gardening. Where's this going to go? And I think that's what I love about the podcast. We just have a conversation, and baking and life coaching. I love it when we get new voices together and just see that connection start to sort of happen, you know, because the community, as you've already said, the community it's so important, isn't it, that you're not doing it on your own, basically.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you.
Starstruck being here, because I think you and Michael have also had your journeys and have did something incredible with this podcast and the work I know you do beyond that. So thank you very much for the opportunity to meet you and Mike and Caroline too.
Exactly.
It's just a pity Berenice wasn't here, because she would have loved this. So we're thinking of you, Berenice.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But please, now look, let's take this time for you guys to just, what do you want the community to know? What is it you're up to? Because you know, it's also part of the thing that I think is missing is that from our community is that giving people the opportunity to support each other. Yeah, we have you great guys here who have taken that step forward. So tell us about what you're up to what's next, so that the community can perhaps, if they choose to, get behind you guys? Who'd like to go first?
Well, I can say that for the first time in 5 years, Clem's Garden's having a winter holiday. So at the moment, what I'm doing is having a bit of a rest.
Amazing.
Which I'm really enjoying. But from March onwards, Clem's will be back up and running. We'll be back in the garden, planting and sowing and harvesting our flowers. So if anybody we're in Huddersfield in West Yorkshire. If anybody wants to support us by thinking of buying local, chemical-free, beautiful seasonal flowers from us, rather than going down to the supermarket with their cellophane-wrapped flowers, then please consider buying from us. But equally, if you're in the local area and you would like to visit a neighbour who might be not get so many visitors, or might be going through a hard time, or a friend who's in the similar boat and would just like some flowers and maybe can't afford to buy them, then please get in touch and help us spread some kindness in the local community by taking a jar of our flowers on your journey and leaving it with the friend as a reminder that you've been there and you thought about them and you cared enough to stop by. That would be cracking. And if you're not in our local area, then if you could just spread the word, that would be cracking. Really appreciate it. I think I've shared the website address with Sarah, so it should be available.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Vicky. Caroline, would you like to go next?
So, yeah, what have I got planned? We are on our last leg before the Christmas holidays, actually. Also taking a bit of time off, which will be a real treat. And then in terms of what's coming next year, we're going to just continue doing what we do and sort of hoping to provide that connection and that, like, facilitate the opportunity for people to just reach out to somebody that they love, to let them know that they're thinking of them. We've just launched some kind of self-care kind of gift boxes, so with a little bit more themed. So one is a letter writing one, we've got a sort of journaling one, a crafting one, with the idea being that really giving people that opportunity to really slow down and take some time to do something for themselves. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they go. And then with my health coaching, that's going to be something that I think will be quite tied to this Plan B idea, and kind of helping predominantly, I think it will be mostly women who have been through similar journey to us and who are at the point, not necessarily just women, I guess, but people who are figuring out the purpose, what's next, how to find that kind of joy and that purpose and that meaning, and working with them closely, sort of to look at all aspects of wellness, I suppose. But I won't qualify for that until about this time next year. So it's going to be a juggling act next year of juggling the biscuits and continuing to learn and to study. But I haven't sent anything with our email address, our website address, but I will do that. So we post nationwide, and all our biscuits are letterbox friendly. So they can just drop on a doormat if, when you want to let somebody know that you're thinking of them. And we do many happy occasions as well. We bake for all sorts of occasions now, and we have our You Choose biscuits, where people can, if our messages aren't quite what they want, they can choose to put exactly what they want on a biscuit. And I'm always up for a good collaboration as well. So if there's ever, I'm thinking about Vicky and the flowers, like whether there's ever anything that a combo somehow that we might be able to do. I don't know. We're up in Yorkshire actually later on in January, so I might have to be in touch. Bye and see you.
That'd be great.
Yeah. So that's us.
Thanks, Caroline. And Mike.
I'm carrying on doing what I'm doing and getting the rewards from that. But two things I think worthy of note for this is that my wife, she's an HR she's actually a director now for a finance house up in London, and has done that for 40 years. And she is now going to retire. She's given them notice of that. So come May next year, she will be retiring from full-time employment. Sadly, she's still going to have to do some consultancy work to keep the wolves from the door, but she's happy to do that. And that she's looking forward to that, because she can then pick and choose what work she does, and she's already had loads of inquiries about that. And one of the things that's going to spin off of that is we're both keen snow skiers as well, and we've always wanted to have a whole season in a ski resort, and of course never been able to do it. So we probably think we know where we're going, but we're not quite sure for how long. We argue about that. I say the whole season, she says 4 weeks. But so not this winter, but next winter. What we hope to do is find a chalet somewhere relatively cheap and just go there for at least 4 weeks, hopefully 12, and just enjoy it and ski when the sun shines and sit and read a book and drink wine when it doesn't. So that's one thing we're going to be doing for ourselves. And the other thing, which actually I need to follow up on, because I'm pretty sure I mentioned it to you, Michael, a while ago, was I'm quite an active Freemason, and it occurred to me quite a while ago that particularly as this group, how I got involved in it was particularly men who are childless, albeit I'm very pleased to see it's opened out, because we're all suffering and feeling the same thing. But it occurred to me that there are thousands of Freemasons all over the world, and that I cannot be the only one who is childless and struggling with it. And therefore, could we perhaps within that, particularly as men, I suppose, historically tend to clam up a little bit about this, establish some sort of helpline. So I found the right route to go through, which is one of the benevolent institutes that the Freemasons run, and it was grabbed immediately, and they're running with it, and it's going to get funding and everything, albeit, as I say, it does seem to have run into the sand. And I'm pleased you've asked that question, because I thought I haven't heard anything about that for months, so I need to follow up on it. But it initially got a very good reception, just to, even if it's just a helpline to point people in the right direction, and just to say, look, if you're suffering this, then do something about it. And the way to deliver it is that every Masonic lodge has someone called the mentor, the chaplain, who actually is responsible for the well-being of the members of the lodge and his or her family. Well, it would be his, wouldn't it? And it could be delivered by just saying at a lodge meeting, look, this helpline or group, or however it manifests itself, is available for if you find yourselves in this position. This is who to contact. You needn't declare it here or now in front of everybody, but come and talk to me and I'll point you in the right direction. So hopefully that will at some point actually get up and running.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that. Yes, I'll be looking forward to seeing where you go with that. Thanks, Mike.
Amazing. Lots of arrows happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure to meet you all. It's been such a lovely energy around this episode. So thank you for sharing and being so open. Thoroughly enjoyed listening to you.
Thank you. It's been a great way to spend a Sunday morning. So thank you so much.
I completely agree. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. And be lovely to stay in touch as well.
Yeah. Definitely. Yes.
Yeah, I'm happy for Mike or Sarah, if you want to bandy around my email, I'm more than happy with that.
Yeah.
Me too.
I'll do that. I'll share everyone's amongst yourselves so you can connect.
Thank you for listening. We hope you found Caroline, Mike and Vicky's stories as inspiring as we did. We'd love to get your feedback. If you'd like to find out more about their businesses, please head to the show notes or to our website www.thefullstoppod.com and head to the toolkit where we list all of our guest details. You can also join our listeners list via the website. It's our monthly email that shares what's going on in our world, along with community events and news. The website also lists our social media links, and we welcome your connection to us. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and we have a channel on YouTube. We're also new on Mastodon, and we have a Ko-fi account where you can donate to our work and help us to secure our future. Through our website and the social media accounts, you can also get in touch if you'd like to be a guest or you have a topic that we've not yet covered. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, it's important for us to let you know you are not alone.